Hello and welcome to MySecurity TV, our Tech and Sec Weekly. My name is Chris Cubbage. I'm the director with MySecurity Media, and this is somewhat of a special episode. We're crossing between Sydney, Australia, and Switzerland and Vienna, speaking to Thomas Lutz, who's in Vienna, Austria, and he's the senior technical lead with Frequentis, and he's working on an urban air mobility research project called GOF 2.0. So looking forward to both of these, and again, I think it's our first cross to Europe in terms of our live stream. So it's great to have our European guests with us. And we're going to be joined by Thomas Lutz, Senior Technical Lead with Frequentis. Thomas, thanks for joining us.
Good afternoon or good morning. 9:30 here in Vienna in Austria.
Beautiful. Hopefully it's nice. It's not too cold up there, I hope. Imagine it will be.
Sunshine, but coldish, above
Nice.
zero at least. Yeah.
Very good. Look, it's definitely Vino time here for me. So we're going to take you through to the top of the hour at least. And something we run a drones and robotics channel called Drastic News. We also have a Smart Cities channel as well, Smart City Tech. So we've covered drones quite a lot and anti-drone technology as well. So I'm really looking forward to what is happening in Europe. This looks like there's like 13 partners involved in this particular project, and it's a big one. So a bit like cybersecurity, and there's a bit of segue there for cybersecurity I noticed in your message, but it's a big topic. So we'll do our best to cover as much as we can in 30 minutes and hopefully keep the audience wanting more. But yeah, talk us through GOF 2.0.
GOF 2.0, exactly. And 13 partners means that I talk you through, but there's a lot of companies, people, organizations doing the work together with me, or actually I'm doing the work together with them. I'm a work package lead, which means that I'm responsible for the one of the more technical work packages in such a project. I'll share my screen so that I can show you what we're actually doing.
Go for it.
And for the sake of flipping through fast, I'll just take the easy approach and use the PowerPoint directly.
And I'll just turn that off.
I assume you can see it.
Yeah.
It's always easier to show some images. So GOF 2 kind of says there has been a GOF 1, and this is pictures from the first project. Actually, this took place 2 years ago. And right in the middle, you can see why we are doing it. Why? Flying, and actually flying PVLOS. That's the big game that will be like shaping the next year. PVLOS, beyond visual line of sight, is that one thing that will really move things forward in the next years. To get to the stage where you can really fly PVLOS, you need to do a few things, and the key focus of the GOF 1 project was to share information, to have every stakeholder, be it air traffic controller, be it a UTM operator, be it a drone operator, so the company organization person actually flying the drone, all of them being the same situational picture, or in simpler terms, making them all see the same things. And you can see up here on the left side, different user interfaces that were presented to those different stakeholders. So up here, this is more for the UTM guys, UTM meaning unmanned traffic management. And here you have an example for an integration with an actual air traffic control display. So something that you would have in a tower of an air navigation service provider. Only if everybody has the same view on what's going on out there, up there, things will be safe.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, and so it's like any other sort of traffic control, but this will be autonomous to a point as well. And I suppose the key, and this is over urban airspace as well, right, in terms of this project?
Yes, and that's now the new one, moving on to urban airspace. This project here had a few flights. We've got some examples here. I'm not going to walk through, but we did things like flying with the police down already. We've done things like joining a search and rescue exercise in the Gulf of Finland. The screenshots or the pictures that you've seen before was from a flight from Tallinn to Helsinki, actually 90-minute flight, so this was quite a long one. We've done inspection flights in forest, utility inspections, power lines, scanning trees to get an impression on how they are, if there's something that they need to do with a forest. And we've already done first trials with urban air mobility on an airport, flying an air taxi. And now GOF2 takes it to the next level. 2 years is a long time in unmanned traffic management and urban air mobility. A lot of things have moved, have improved. So it's time to look at what we can do now.
Maybe just talk us around, I mentioned terminology. What is some of the key terminology here? And again, what's the type of terminology going to be used with the public for public awareness on these platforms as well?
So I'm using the architecture to walk through the terms and some of the abbreviations. The key part, and that's why we're doing all of this, is the end user. You can see it here. End user means you and me. Depends on, let's just imagine you get married, you want to have pictures or video stream of your wedding. You as the end user would maybe hire somebody who would complete that mission. End user could as well be a large company trying to look for surveys from building sites, from infrastructure, anything that needs to be done in real world and could be done by drones is ordered by an end user. So that's actually the driving factor in this whole ecosystem. UAS and UAM operator, that's kind of the next one in the chain of things. UAS, unmanned aerial system. It's not only the drone. If you want to have it in simpler terms, it's like the drone, the remote control, and everything that comes along with the system that you need to fly and operate the drone. Urban air mobility, flying drones, flying probably manned aircraft in an urban environment, over cities, close to cities. Why is it two terms? It's been a long talk in UTM, ATM, and a long discussion actually on figuring out who and how would name things. So in the old days, I'm tempted to say, it was easy. You had an aircraft, you're the pilot. A drone still has a pilot, but the pilot is on the ground. It's not in the air anymore. So now we've got like two different things that you need to distinguish: piloted, unpiloted, where unpiloted could actually mean that a system, an autonomous system, is driving it. And then you've manned and unmanned, where in how air taxis will be in future, an autonomous system will carry a passenger. So unpiloted in the meaning of no human pilot, but manned aircraft. And that's the bigger part of urban air mobility. And this is why the terms evolve a bit. A few other things that we have up here. ANSP, that's the navigation service provider. This is the service provider that currently ensures safety in the sky and that is responsible for making sure that aircraft don't get too close to each other. And long story put short, that all necessary information for operating aircraft is available to the end users, meaning operators and customers. Two terms maybe to conclude this journey. Common Information Service, the so-called CIS, and the USSB. This is new terms, new roles that came up with the concept of U-Space in Europe, or with the concept of drone operators and U-Space service providers in the United States. U-Space service provider, this is the box here. That's an entity, an organization providing so-called U-Space services to drone operators. Examples for U-Space services can be things like flight approval service or providing geo-awareness. Not only looking at aeronautical information, but looking at more detailed terrain data, safety critical information that you need if you fly a drone. Because typically drones are way smaller than planes. So you sort of need additional information to safely operate the drones. And this context of hosting operators in the sky, this is the job of the USSB.
So they're basically monitoring the skies all the time, and then drone operators can come in and fly their drone and be guided by the USSP, right?
Yeah. So the idea is that everybody is aware of what's going on. So you can see it here. There's more than one, and that more than one means that they need to share information on how things in the sky look like. Yeah. And
is that a potential kind of business opportunity? That's an area that we will see more of.
Yeah. there's a lot of opportunities in here. So when I try to start talking on drones, one of the key questions is, what's the difference to what we actually have right now? In the end, it's an aircraft. It moves up in the sky, but it's a bit smaller. Actually, it's way smaller typically, at least for now. And it's way cheaper to acquire, and it's probably easier to fly. Whereas the last one is a bit disputed, but still smaller, cheaper, and on a first glance easier to fly means there's a lot more aircraft, drones flying than there are planes, and that of course means business opportunities.
Yeah.
It's not only a business opportunity for use-based service providers. It's important to mention the other type of service providers, the so-called supplementary data providers, offering new services that are specific to drones for now, like network coverage. Drones need connectivity to really excel and to really perform very well. You need different types of weather forecasts if you want to take drones into town. You need to know, can I fly close to this building, or can I fly close to those trees, or is there some local turbulence? Things that are typically of no interest to a big plane might very well do a lot of harm to a small drone. So supplementary services together with the use-based service providers, that's going to be a huge market in future.
And things like avoidance technology, how critical will that be for this, particularly for the regulators? And maybe can you point to the regulators on this?
Yeah, the regulators would be over here, the authorities. Yeah. So maybe it's time to move to different deck to this one here.
And you did mention, and sorry, Thomas, you did mention cybersecurity before.
Yeah.
Where in that architectural design do you think that is? Because cybersecurity will need to be embedded in pretty much all of those layers.
Exactly, in any of the boxes, in any of the connections. So maybe to stay here for a while, yeah, you're right. There's different organizations, entities behind. This is not one big monolithic system provided by one organization or industry company. Every USSB in the game will be its own organization company. Drone operators, tens of thousands, 100,000s in future. End users, well, that's the general public, that's all of us. Supplementary data service providers, that could be telecom operators. At least in the project, as we said before, we've got more than 10 partners, and each of those partners has its own system in this system of systems. The connectivity between those systems, making sure that information is transported in a safe and secure way, that's essential, because if you have one node in this chain being intruded, being hacked, you need to make sure that no big bad things happen in a nutshell. The key part in here is, at least how did you say before, you're an optimistic pessimist. I expect that sooner or later something will happen, and we need to make sure that we design the system in a way that it is resilient. So there's always a second eye taking care of what information is transported. Is a system compromised? Or in very simple terms, does it still feel all right how the system interacts and how connections work?
There's also that risk. There's a lot of anti-drone technology out there as well, and making sure that can only be used for legitimate purposes and not used against any other sort of drone system as well. It needs to be quite, so there's a lot of challenges here in terms of, as you say, the resilience and the protection, not just that cyber security, but also the physical control of drones. And the other question I had is drone swarms and how that might overlay into a system or an architecture like that. Is that under consideration, or all these individual drones being piloted by individual drone operators?
This is part of ongoing research, yes. It's not exactly in the focus of GOF2. Why? Our focus right now in this series of validation projects is looking at the urban environment. And what's a swarm? A lot of drones flying close to each other. Maybe we should talk about a lot of drones. If you look at traffic forecasts, most forecasts say that one of the main drivers will be delivery. And if you look at the numbers, for example, there's one for Europe that says you will have around 10,000 drones per hour over a major European city. That sounds like crazy and very scary, actually, because 10,000 drones, that has to be a black wall in the sky. If you look at the size of an average city, and major European city means somewhere beyond 1 million inhabitants, 10,000 drones actually is not that much anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think we will see those black walls in the sky consisting of hundreds of drones, because there's just not that many of them, and there's enough space to get them sorted in. For GOF2, the focus is more on getting things done safely and integrated, because in the city you've got different challenges. You have public acceptance, of course. You have local infrastructure. You need to take care of ground risk. That's a very big concern.
Yeah.
What happens if you better plan your flight in a way so that you, if you can, move very far away from critical infrastructure on the ground, and that could be power plants as well as public infrastructure, kindergartens, schools.
Do you see? Yeah, and sorry to interrupt, but it's one of those things. Cities are a real passion of mine as well, and city design. Do you think it's going to create new thinking around the way a city is designed in the first place into the future, obviously? But you know, Europeans, it's too late for you, but you know, there are still some cities being built. How a city is built for that urban air mobility industry is an interesting concept.
Yes, it is. Personal opinion, I hope it will, because there's a lot of sense in some of the use cases. Even though you have to lift things up in the air, so you have to add quite a lot of energy to overcome gravity. Overall, the energy and the green summary of things is not that bad. On the contrary, you would save a bit of traffic. You could save a lot of time. Especially for things that need to be fast and in time. I see a lot of sense in doing those things, and you actually might save sooner or later. Speaking of decades, years, you might see sooner or later that actual traffic within a city will change. But that's still a real long while to go.
Yeah, yeah. But initially, is it the dirty, dull, and dangerous kind of aspects that drones have traditionally been used for? Is that how you would imagine this to initially go? You know, delivering medicine rather than delivering pizzas. I mean, that's hardly urgent. But you know, we're definitely seeing that here in Australia. You know, we're seeing drones quite actively on the beaches patrolling for sharks. That's that sort of dull sort of patrolling that needs to be done. They're starting to use it up in Queensland for delivering of medicine out to the bush. You know, these are common sense applications that, you know, are beneficial rather than just, you know, delivering household items, basically.
Common sense is exactly the point. Yeah. If you look at the scenarios that we had in GOF1, or maybe now with an Austrian example, you have a lot of mountains. You don't fly a helicopter every day up to some remote place. You don't want to risk a helicopter if the weather is bad. So the common sense things is where you actually can take more risk by flying a drone because there's no pilot on board, where it can be faster by flying a drone. Medicine is one thing, but as well in logistics, sometimes trucks drive almost empty because there has to be a delivery done within 24 hours. And if by, I don't know, bad luck, bad timing, there's not enough other things to ship, then between like 2 Austrian cities, 2 hours drive, you've got a large car driving for just one package. That could be done with a drone, not large-scale delivery, but things where you need to be fast and where you need to be efficient. And one big use case is obviously public safety. You had already some of the examples looking for sharks. Not a police task, I know, but still, there a drone is not as invasive as a pit heli, and it gives very nice overview to those people that need to take care of the general public. Putting up a drone very fast to get an overview on an incident, on a fire. Bit a while ago now in Paris, when Notre Dame was burning, one of the first things they put up was drones to see where they can go in and where there's the urgent need of fighting the fire. I think that we've not yet thought of all the use cases. As we go along, drive the environment and move things forward by adding services, by supporting with bringing existing technology to aviation, by combining stakeholders of different domains, we will see a lot more to come in the future.
What's the trajectory that you're seeing? You're a lead, or in fact, you're a senior technical lead. The speed of the development here. I mentioned Australia before, and you said you know Australia quite well, and this is one project of many around the world working on this. And interestingly, we just spoke to the World Economic Forum, who tend to try and keep everyone together and working to a common playbook. How is all this developing? Is, say, Europe going on its own? And I think we're using quite a bit of TELUS technology here in Australia too, which is French. So I think there's a mix across sort of Western democracies, but India is also doing a lot in this space as well. Are we all working towards a common framework, or do you find these projects are commercially competitive to get these services ready to go and to market as well, or is it a bit of both, I imagine?
Looking at the potential growth of the market, competition, of course, is one of the major drivers. Startups joining, looking at the business cases behind, it makes a lot of sense to enter the market. Still, you need to know a lot about aviation and the supplemental services that come with it. This is a slide, or actually an image from around 2019, trying to sketch how U-Space, this concept of UTM and the ecosystem around, that's how they call it in Europe, how U-Space will evolve. You might notice there's no years here. Some say U4 will be 2035. Some say it might be earlier, or some say we will have U4 services like advanced connection to ATM, fully integrated services where aircraft and drones coexist in the same airspace. We might have not all the features already done, but there's two key messages here.
Yeah.
You need more automation and you need more connectivity to go there. Is it the same all over the world? In the end, it has to be. It's still an aircraft, even though it's smaller, and doesn't matter where it flies, if it's US, India, or Australia, or Europe.
How aligned is it to autonomous vehicle development too? It looks a little bit similar in terms of time frame as well. That technology, even sort of avoidance technology, autonomous control, will be attuned. I mean, Teslas must be in this space somewhere.
I've seen some images. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that one of the key parts is AI people will kill me now, but I think in the space, in the airspace, it's a bit easier than on the ground with regards to things that could come in your way. Still, you need to lift things. So CPU processing, battery things. That's all things to consider on the way forward. And this is why we see concepts like U-Space, because you need to find a balance between ground-based services and airborne services. One of the ideas in increasing the level of connectivity means that you can actually offload computing from a drone down to the ground, because energy doesn't matter that much on the ground. It can be very cost and battery intensive to compute complex scenarios of detect and avoid maneuvers, tactical deconfliction. Sooner or later, with the involvement of battery management and energy management in total, we might see a move back up in the air, but right now it's all about finding that sweet spot of what you can already do up in the air, how much data you can bring down to the ground in a reliable way, and creating a network of services, digital services, enabling PV-less flights.
And then it's also sort of system maintenance as well would also be a challenge, and I imagine that's another opportunity on maintaining. You say you've got 10,000 drones flying around a city. Someone's got to be able to maintain those, service them, and that's a whole sector on its own right?
Oh yeah. It's hardware, creating the planes, maintaining them. That's a whole sector of its own. Typically even bigger than the digital services around. Landing pods, connectivity for those landing pods, recharging the drones. changing batteries if they're broken. There's a lot of things behind. Taking care that the payload is on, doing risk assessment.
Do you think it could go, again, maybe bringing on the autonomous driverless cars, where you might own a car, but it's out there making money for you because it's autonomous and it's out there doing a service, and same thing, you'll end up owning your own drone and it can potentially go and pick up something that you want, and then if you're not using it, someone else can come along and use it when you're not using it. Is that sort of the business case that you would imagine into the future, or an option for it?
There's been talks on this, yeah, and I see a few initiatives in Europe where people try to realize such things, owning a drone, and then if you don't use it on your own, offering it for services.
Yeah.
Right now, probably not autonomous, but piloted. But this is something that we will see. Big drones, professional drones, they are not that cheap, so reusing them makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Well, look, it's a fascinating area. We've gone for the full hour. I've got about 10 other questions here as well. What was the other one? Last one I wanted. I can't read my writing now. Ground. You mentioned ground risk as being that first one. I've been following drones for a long, long time, and here we are, 2020. Are you surprised at where we're at, or is it's about right in terms of the projection, say from 2010 on how the industry was? I think we were slightly behind around 2017 in terms of where the industry is, but it seems to be really picking up quite rapidly again now. Where do you think it is in terms of its development? And then the game changes, 5G, battery power, and how you expect to see the next decade developing, much like sort of 3 or 4 other key industry sectors. It's just going to keep going off.
Speaking for those partners that drive it, speaking for industry, so to say, and important to say, no offense intended. I think that industry is a bit ahead when you look at regulation. That's one key factor right now that we move on. If you look at the market, you can buy a drone for 10-ish K that can fly BVLOS. You can buy a drone for the price of a luxury car that can fly 7 hours endurance. If you look at what regulation allows, it's not so easy to take that actually into action unless it's military use. Going hand in hand with regulatory institutions, and that's a worldwide initiative, that will be the key driver in the next year. It's not technology.
Well, okay, and that's the perfect answer. We have heard that, and we've mentioned we cover space as well, and that's a similar kind of line with them in terms of government regulation is moving too slow. And again, I mentioned that Queensland case example. They were really happy to be sort of underway, but they said it could have happened faster if government had been on board. How are you addressing the regulatory environment in your project? Is this where Estonia kind of comes in, and they're just forward leaning in that, and that's why this project is based in Estonia?
So we have 3 ANSPs, air navigation service providers in Estonia is the program coordinator, so they lead the project, but there's Finland and Poland in as well. We do have an own work package that collects data, that creates a report after 2 years, and disseminates this to official institutions. We have Eurocontrol in our board. We keep in touch with EASA on updating them on results. So one of the reasons why we do these projects, and this is funded by the European Union, is that they collect data and they get insights. So this is like a hand-in-hand approach, because I do understand that regulation is slow. It's not easy. You need to find out how things can work. There's a lot of uncertainty in there. And in the end, a regulation is something different than putting up technology. So that needs to evolve over time, and this is why we have these projects.
Yeah, no one wants to be held responsible if something happened. Look, I've put the link into our Drastic News channel and the actual media release that came through. What's your time frame on GOF? How long is this going to be going for?
2 years from now, from January.
Oh, that's when you will be sort of flying around, right?
First flights, famous last words, end of summer this year.
Okay, nice. Yeah. All right. Well, look, we'll stay in, and being an optimist on that. I don't want to be an optimistic pessimist if you're flying around a city. But yeah, I think best of luck. It's worth watching. And hopefully, Thomas, we'll have you back. Maybe once you start flying, I'll keep an eye out, but certainly
Sure.
at the end of the project. And I'm thinking we'll even kind of maybe bring a panel together. I might try and get sort of 3 or 4 of you from around the world together and kind of get you all together. It's a fascinating field, a lot involved, but obviously world leading as well. So absolute pleasure meeting you.
Thank you for being here, and anytime, just let me know.
Great. Is there any takeaways that you want? Is there any kind of closing messages? Otherwise, sort of just stay in touch.
Stay in touch, look at what we're doing, and don't be scared. We're already in a very mature technology. So if you move on like this, it's going to be cool.
Well, is there some social media, you know, like NASA's Perseverance has got its own Twitter? Have you doing anything like that?
If you follow the SESAR project, you'll see all the projects there. It's not just GOF, there's more, and we all have our Twitter feeds. We have partially our own home pages. So if you start with the SESAR project, you'll have the whole of Europe there and can follow.
Beautiful. Wonderful. Look, Thomas, it's late for me and you've got a full day ahead of you, so I'll let you go. Absolute pleasure.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was Thomas Lutz, Senior Technical Lead with Frequentis. They're in Vienna, Austria. Ciao. Thank you.